Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can join the show by clicking the button and joining the panel to express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello!
You're here.
Hello! Hey, good morning.
Hello. Stupid Discord crashed just before I started the live show, which always throws me off completely.
Oh, shoot.
Wondering why I'm
no.
stumbling through my intro, that's why. Go ahead, whoever that was. Or talk while I'm talking and then leave total silence. Either's good.
Right. So, Nathan, a skeptical mind, right, is quite important when it comes to all these observations. You got to get outside of that religious belief. I've noticed that a lot of Globers are very strong in religious belief. It's like walking into a synagogue of Globe Satan. I'm going to be honest with you. It's really weird. It's strange behavior. I don't get it. I don't understand the cognitive science of it. Something has to do with the brain function.
You're going to go nuts yourself if you try and divine other people's motivations in this regard. All you can do is take apart their arguments.
True. You're right, Nathan. You're right. That's absolutely
correct.
But
heliocentrism is a religion.
Yes,
we
it
all
is.
agree on that.
Yeah, but the motivation behind people adhering to that religion in the face of us and what we say and becoming anti-flat earth religious zealots, the motivation behind that, we can't divine. We can speculate.
They're being... Okay, my speculation is they're being controlled by Satan. He's the liar of this world. He promoted this lie, and everybody believes it.
I don't like that. See, if you just ascribe men and their wrongdoing to Satan, suddenly you're absolving them of a certain amount of responsibility, in my opinion. But there we go, that's just me.
No,
they are responsible, though, Nathan. They are responsible, man, because they're regurgitating this bullocks that obviously does not make no sense. Like, red shift, blue shift proves that the universe is expanding, this and that. It takes faith, therefore belief, therefore religion.
I don't disagree.
It's redundant.
As I say, all we can do is challenge their arguments. Go ahead, 10th.
No, I came in after getting a refill on the cup of tea, so I didn't catch the beginning. But based on what I've heard to this point, I think the part I caught was, why is it that people, in the face of evidence that we're providing, are still defending for a spherical belief with religious zeal? Okay, and then when you say when we have a discussion about it, back and forth, proving the points why it cannot be a sphere, why are they defending it still after that point? Is that where this question started?
Pretty much. It is. Like, what grabs them, no pun intended, gravitate them to that paradigm? Like, how can you see? I like to see through a Glober's eyes.
Right.
Like,
you were one.
A zealot.
You were one. Everyone here was.
Yeah, well,
exactly.
Not that bad. Not after I've seen evidence.
I see his point. I see his point here, Nathan, because I can go to people I know, and prior to me speaking openly to them about it, I'm the guru. Hey, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And blah, blah, blah. People hold each other's friends at different levels of, respect and knowledge. And I have people like that in my life that I go to because they're that way to me. Now, if one of them came to me, someone I hold up in some kind of esteem and level in life, and said to me something like flat earth, and I'm a glober, I say, wait a minute, you're smarter than that. What? Don't fall for that conspiracy, blah, blah, blah. So that means I have been programmed and conditioned by the media that if anybody talks about flat earth, they're conspiratorics, they're crazy. So I fling this onto my friend that I never would have done before on any other subject because I respected them prior, right? So all of a sudden, because I got controlled by the media, my friend's crazy.
Right. Yeah, it's wild. I had one glober, right? I had a discussion with. His name is Foolish. Okay, he's a decent glober. I have to be honest. I told him about you can manipulate magnetism. You could take it and get a magnetizer and get a magnet and get the guy where it has power, like a subwoofer. You can magnetize it, right? Where it can have more power handling, and you can manipulate that for the RMS, root mean square, and all that rigmarole. He agreed with it. Yeah, you can manipulate that with another object, and you can't do that with gravity. He agreed with that. But then I'll go to another glober about the same argument. Nope, they'll disregard it right out. They'll just hand wave it all day long. It's baffling.
Well, it gets worse than that because whereas one single phone call previous to the subject matter would have had them in your house within driving time. Now you say, let's meet and talk about this. No, I'm not. No, we can be friends, but I don't ever want to talk about this with you. Whoa.
Why would you want to? I remember back in the day moaning at chemo for being a flat earth evangelist. And the same applies. I know this is going to be a difficult conversation with you, 10th, because that's your shtick, right? That's what you do.
No, hang on, be careful. Let me set my stage before you go there. When I say talk about it, I mean the initial discussion one time just to see, and because I don't force people to do anything. I don't force people to become Christians because that's a work of God. I'm a witness for God, and I'm a witness for the evidence for flat earth. I present the evidence and I leave it be. But I can't even get that first meeting.
Okay, let's do a bit of housekeeping because we've had a nice little chit chat extending over from the pre-show, which isn't attached to this thanks to OBS crashing. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative.
I need that tangent point first.
Maybe there's some ballers in Discord. Where's Staggerly? Pull them out.
Yep.
Go fishing.
Yeah, where they all at?
Don't know if there is.
I mean, because this is the question, right? I mean,
hello, Owen.
This should be answered by ballers, right?
Correct. I mean, it's like a unicorn in your garage. I mean, or like an elephant in your garage. Oh, it's there. We can see it, but it's not there. It's just an apparent because it's always refracted.
Then it's not Earth curve physically blocking stuff like boats and buildings. Speaking of that,
refracted unicorns are very difficult.
Indeed. Speaking of that exact discussion, so on Saturday at the usual debate time, which is 2 p.m, I'll come to that at the end of housekeeping as well. There's another issue about times for the show, which I want to discuss with an audience here. But at 2 p.m. UK, which is the normal live show time in the week, I trimmed out one of the other show's bits and edited it down to be a bit more concise, with a guy who came in and, thanks to Stagoli, entered in discussion on the first housekeeping question. And, it lasted a good 40 minutes. I edited it down to about 25 minutes. But yeah, that'll be released on Saturday. So check it out, because that's how far the conversation goes with that first housekeeping question, if it's asked first. Because typically, any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline would be the first question, because it's the new hotness. But if you ask for Earth curve first, that's where the Earth curve heliocentric model basically fails. We debunked it in 2015 by pointing out the errors and foibles of the Earth curve calculator, and now we've debunked the very geometry it's based on. So there's nothing left in that regard. It's been left in ashes.
I have a photo. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. Dr. John D. Did it looking on to France, and it kind of shows angular size change. Now, the bottom of these channel markers, or the portion of the turbines, are the 17 meters, which is 54 feet. So even if you use standard refraction, you get about 30 feet, but the horizons beyond that, and the geometric horizon in this should be no more than 2.62 miles away.
Oh, perfect. So shout out to Dr. John D. So, a fellow ballbuster. Sounds like what he's showing is the typical effects of bottom-up obstruction due to angular limitation prior to the horizon formerly known as Earth curve. So you can say, here's the effect you would have said is blocking the bottom of this wind turbine. But it's definitely not the horizon formerly known as Earth curve because it's happening in the foreground. And here's the horizon behind it, Black Swan. Yeah, absolute annihilation by the sounds of things. I'll have to check that out. Shout out to you, Dr. John D.
Isn't John D the one that you went through the scientific method with?
Yes.
I'm just curious. Good story.
Yeah, I don't want to go through that story to embarrass Dr. John D. There's no need for that.
Yeah, it took a lot of guts on your part.
Yeah. That might be true, but I had nothing to lose, Neil. In the same instance, anybody who comes here with a PhD has got a lot to lose, which is why they don't want to come here. No, I'm not divining their thoughts, I'm just stating a fact. Me, I'm a grunt. Half the time I get simple basic maths wrong. But for me to challenge a PhD based on their understanding of science is arrogant.
Well,
technically, you're a delivery boy.
Hang on. How did the guy? I'm not talking about Dr. John D. I'm just talking in general. How does anybody get a PhD? Don't they have to pass certain exams, do certain criteria with work that's already been in print, and they got to answer the questions the way the questions must be answered, whether he tested it or not, or he doesn't pass the grade?
Well, just good. You just gotta have good memory to regurgitate the information.
Great. So that means any individual testing experiments that may have been opposite of the answers of the tests for his PhD, he could not put them as the answers, or he would never get his PhD.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of flat earthers, as yourself, I'm sure of it, that can play Glober. It's not that hard to regurgitate mainstream information. You can put it on a test, pass the test, and go on your way. Does not mean necessarily that you believe the earth is a sphere or all the mainstream science is correct.
Yeah, my point in saying that's regurgitating that story the way I did is that all you're debating with the Glober who's referencing a PhD or the PhD guy or gal herself is that same argument. So he can beat that argument at one level. He can beat it if the guy's got 10 diplomas. It don't matter.
True, right.
On the subject, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Email.
That's a funny one.
Do you think they'll ever be? Just out of curiosity.
Well, not concerning things that actually are in the model, like nothing about that, right? Because it's all presuppositional conception anyway, so you can't. But they might try something sort of adjacent, but why would they do that, right? They just want everybody to focus on the model, on the dream. And you can't have a viable hypothesis based on that.
Correct.
Nope,
If
you'll
the
have a
model
good
won't
campfire
work,
story,
just
though.
Make a new one.
Was there any more on that, Don?
Yeah, no, pretty much. I mean, it's pretty simple. Good campfire story. It's hey, I seen Bigfoot one day. That's gather all your friends. That's what that is. Going off of Arwen.
Right,
Hey,
just so...
Bigfoot is real.
No, okay.
Right? It's
less of that.
It's more likely they will find a viable hippopotamus instead. than a viable hypothesis.
Right. Just so stories aren't viable hypotheses. Right on. What about any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, but Karen B has evidence of Bigfoot.
Can you manipulate gravity? That's
We
the
have
question.
to know what it is first.
True. You need to know what it is so you can manipulate it, like electromagnetism. You can manipulate that to manipulate the object that you're trying to, manipulate. But you can't do that with gravity. Only electromagnetism can do that.
Okay.
Well, the thing about electromagnetism is it's electromagnetism, not gravity.
True. That's right. That's right. But the formula of electrostatics and gravity is pretty much similar. You got the K, which is the constant, and the G, which is the constant.
What?
It's quite similar.
No,
The
it isn't.
formula, you say? You mean the
not similar
formula
at all.
of
Yes.
Newtonian gravity?
No, one is used and useful, and you can show it. The other doesn't exist.
That's true. The gravity, I do not, but electrostatics is real.
Yeah, but it's electrostatics, though.
Yeah, it's something totally different. Why are you presenting that like it's a comparison or juxtaposition with gravity? Number one, they're two different things. Number two, they're not comparable. Number three, if you do try and compare them, one is real, one isn't. I just don't understand this link. I do, but I want you to say it.
Well, it's just the fact that electromagnetism is something that should be touched on a little bit more, especially in the flat Earth community, because it has been hijacked. The formulas are quite similar, and I think they should be looked at more in depth.
But why? You say they've been hijacked.
Similar to what?
Who's hijacked them? And for what?
Religious people have hijacked, like they made it so. Okay, so you can get electrostatic. You can curve water with static, obviously, but you can't make it go into a sphere. They took gravity, which gives it a.
Hold on, stop. You're about to compare something that doesn't compare then. So you're saying this electromagnetic force doesn't do anything that's now going to be compared to something that gravity does do on a sphere. Again, so straight off the bat, there's no reason to compare or contrast these two different things so far based on what you're about to launch into. If one doesn't do the thing that the other one is described to do, then they're not comparable. But they're being compared. I still don't know why.
Well, because one is a push. I mean, gravity is a push, right? Electromagnetism is a repel and a attraction. It's both. Gravity is only one.
What? I think you're going by outdated models that are officially denounced.
Well, everything is inherently diamagnetic, right? So if you take, like, say,
No.
pyrolytic.
Stop.
Go ahead.
I stop. I don't need to have a lecture on how everything is something. If it's specifically in regards to how it compares and contrasts with gravity. So far, you were doing okay when you were like, well, one's got a pulling force and the others claim to be a pulling force. So like, okay, that's something I can get behind.
Yeah, that's paramagnetism.
Okay, but what effects of that are being hijacked? Because that was your first opener into this. Because you seem to think it's of great importance, so I want to know why.
Okay, so when they take an observation that they see, just like I was talking about earlier about the circumference of light and it appearing as spherical, they take that and reverse engineer it into what they need it to be.
Okay, what effect of electromagnetism or magnetism at all have they reverse engineered into something they need it to be?
To fit a globe, because electrostatics can't, as far as I'm aware of, I could be wrong, cannot make water stick to a ball, exterior of a ball.
But it's not claimed to. Yeah. Can anyone else?
That is
picking up what I'm putting down?
That's true,
here?
but gravity is. Gravity is.
Yes, so it doesn't compare or contrast to the thing that you are comparing and contrasting it with. Then If one is claimed to do that and one isn't, then how do they compare? They don't, do they? Yet you're still using them like they're side-by-side comparable, or one's been hijacked to demonstrate something that the other one doesn't do. If magnetism doesn't do that, it's not being hijacked and claimed as gravity, is it?
I could be very wrong about it, but I think they're hijacking electrostatics and
How?
claiming it to
Give
be
me an
gravity.
example. Don't you say you think they're doing it? So far, not so good. I'm not having a go at you. I'm just saying that this crops up time and time again, and you've got this parallel contrast between gravity and electromagnetics, like there's some comparison to be had, or some hijacking being done, and you haven't yet to hear a good example.
Okay, so do you know what the electric participator is?
No.
All right, hang on. I'm gonna post it.
But just tell me how it's linked to a compare or contrast with gravity.
So they take molecules will have some sort of like weight to it, correct?
No.
Or matter, if you will.
No.
No.
No. Weight is a downward vector.
Sure. I'm with you on that. But downward vector is weight, correct?
Right, but you said molecules have got weight. No.
But they're down, right?
So gas go down, go boom boom then, right?
No,
So no,
not at all.
So no then. So your starting premise to link this to gravity is a premise that doesn't stand true for a magnetic field or anything else. It's just not true. So you're going to compare or contrast it with this fundamentally incorrect premise about what gravity is describing versus what matter does. With the downward vector it hasn't got. In your mind, this is linked, but, you know, it isn't. It's been linked by flat earthers. Why, I don't know. I haven't looked into it to find out why that's been laid out to us on the feast of nonsense that we have to sort of get past when we first get here. A lot of people gorge themselves on it. I haven't gone down that road to find out why that's been plattered up and stuck in front of us. I'd like to know why, because loads of flat earthers talk about this. I don't know why.
Okay, so would you agree that like smoke is affected by the electromagnetic spectrum?
Maybe, but it's not gas, is it? Smoke's not gas.
Smoke is not gas?
No.
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
It's a form of it's a property of gas.
No, it's suspended particles of solid.
Are gases solid?
Gases aren't smoke. You said smoke.
So smoke is solid?
Suspended, yeah. Very fine particles, correct. You can use it as an analogy and say, here's how smoke behaves in certain circumstances, and you can compare that, because it does expand in certain circumstances, to fill the volume it's got. So you can show how that behaves when suspended in gas, little particles of solids that you can see, to demonstrate an effect that gas has. But it isn't a gas, no.
It's carried by gas, right? So when smoke billows, it's the heat of the gas that's carrying the smoke particles, which are solid. As soon as the heat evaporates, it just dissipates and dwells down.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you guys. I'm willing to learn, but I'm a flat earther that's more on the side of electromagnetism. On all, like, I believe 100% that relative density and gravity and electromagnetism, there's a relationship that's going on there that is being misunderstood.
Okay, what relationship?
Gravity,
what relationship?
Gravity's not real, but I'm just saying the description of gravity. I'm not saying it.
Okay.
Gravity
well, how do
itself.
these three things link together then? If you're saying that there is a link, what link?
The equation. I'm talking about the math. I'm not talking about the actual observation. It's electromagnetism, you can do different things with it.
Okay. But so what? How does that in any way relate to the deception in terms of gravity or the nature of the flat plane we dwell atop? If it's, you're like, I'm a flat earther and I think electromagnetism is important. Okay. Why make that statement as a flat earther? How is it important? Why is it important? How is it linked?
Because obviously electromagnetism has a magnitude, which is a vector that has a direction that goes in, and everything in Earth is inherently, naturally diamagnetic. It is repelled. Everything is affected by electrostatics.
Okay.
That is a variable that you need to control for.
No,
like
okay,
if you using the Cavendish experiment.
Yeah, hold on. Yes, that's a very nice sweeping statement. My question was in regards to how it links. Who's disturbing this discussion? Whoever's doing that, can you can it?
Yeah. The discussion is you need to control for that if you're trying to quote unquote test for gravity when you're doing the well, it's not an experiment, obviously, it's just an observation. But you need to control for that, for the electromagnetic spectrum.
Okay, and?
That's why.
Okay, and?
Yeah, it is an and. I want the and.
No, but what? Yeah, but if you're doing an experiment which Cavendish is not.
It's not. Yeah, I agree.
So you're saying because of a non-experiment, you've got to have this control variable that is something that you will hold constant to not affect the test. That suddenly something which is held constant to not affect a test, which isn't a test, Cavendish, somehow is very... Can you just pop yourself on mute while I'm in the middle of a sentence? Is that possible? Thank you. So it's a non-test that you're saying is critically important. We pay close attention to a non-variable. A variable that is held constant so as to not affect that test, which isn't a test. That, to me, is not in any way an important thing to focus on. But you're still, in your mind, it's really important. Now, I'm not saying it isn't, but you're yet to give me any connection or any reason to see it as important also. That's all I'm saying.
Right. So, like, if you get like a Tesla meter, it's F71 or F41 Tesla meter, it'll let you know the axis of the electromagnetic spectrum and where it's like the strongest field of that. Like, it could be stronger in the x-axis or in the y-axis, but it has not been demonstrated that the variable has not been controlled of, because they use lead, which is diamagnetic in nature. So how can you control for electromagnetism? How do you do this?
You're talking about the non-experiment Cavendish again, like it matters.
Yes.
So because so just let me try one more time, because it's almost like you've completely ignored it. You were nodding along through it, then I asked you to mute and I repeated it, but you've ignored it entirely. What I just said. Twice. So what? It's held constant. Or not. This is a non-experiment. So based on a pseudo-science apparatus claimed by ballers to prove something, you're saying they don't hold electromagnetic fields constant as a non-variable, something which will be held constant. So what? That doesn't make it important in any way, shape, or form.
You're correct. I get it. Nathan, I'd like to apologize, man. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. You're helping illustrate to the audience how unrelated this is. In the same way, I could describe something that's benign, but extremely important in life in general. Our oxygen content that runs through our blood is extremely important to life itself. Yeah, how does that relate to flat Earth? Well, I see the oxygen content in our blood is extremely relevant to flat Earth. Well, why? Well, because gravity and oxygen and the amount in your bloodstream is linked. Well, how? Well, through this pseudoscience test that they do with blood and call it gravity. Yeah, but it's nonsense, though. Yeah, but they don't hold the blood constant in your bloodstream, your oxygen content. Yeah, but who cares? It's not a relevant test. It doesn't mean anything. No, but I still think it's deeply important that everybody focuses in flat Earth on the oxygen content in our blood because it's extremely important. Why? Because I think it is. Well, I don't see how it is, but I see lots of flat earthers saying it is and comparing it to gravity like there's some sort of contrast to be had that they never give. And then babble on about how important electromagnetism is for an hour or two.
But there's an important. I want to apologize. I've been drinking a little bit, bud. I'm going to be honest.
No, there's no need to. I want to know why you think it's important, and you're telling us.
Well, my mind is a little cloudy now because I'm drinking. I'm going to be honest.
Thinking, why do I care about this?
I'm trying to. I shouldn't have drink. I shouldn't have drank when. Dang it.
Oh, you're apologising for being fuzzy-headed. Oh, okay, that's different. What did you say, Neil?
Adam drinks all the time.
Is Adam here?
Yeah, well, I'm a little fuzzy right now. I want to be able to come back to this again eventually when I'm not fuzzy.
Fine. I'd love to know why electromagnetism is so important beyond the folly of understanding electromagnetism, which is extremely useful, don't get me wrong. But I don't see how it's pertinent in this arena, that's all.
But it's very great because there's been you got monopoles, spin ice. You know about spin ice?
Vaguely.
Can I say something?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
Right. So yeah, I was a big fan of the concept of Newtonian gravity for a while, and actually defending it before I got into a struggle about it with Tony. Right. We all know about that one. But electrostatics, it's so different from anything comparable to gravity because it has limitations. It has limitations in every way that the concept of Newtonian gravity does not have. It has a range limit. It has a measurable strength that decreases over distance, right? Also, it's not stable. So
true. That's right. That's right. You're correct. You're correct, but so is gravity. It's not stable.
What? No. We don't know what gravity is. It's a concept that's not even been defined.
I agree with you. Armin. We don't know what it is.
But how can you then say that it's not stable? Because it's not defined.
I'm saying the mainstream narrative that it's I can't.
Objection.
The narrative is unstable, but
back off your mic,
the thing is not even defined.
You're clipping your mic. Just back off it a little bit. Go ahead, John.
Please, John, object.
Well, this is a good example of why the false dichotomy is important to heliocentrists. Now that you're arguing gravity, Newtonian or otherwise, against the idea of electrostatics, you can keep it within the paradigm that it is a sphere. And you're just trying to figure out how you're sticking to that sphere.
Ah, gotcha. So long as everyone's begging the question of a sphere and a downward bias, early on discussed as the weight factor when detailing this argument, you've got both parties, one who thinks he's a flat earther in this example, and one, I'm not saying that's you, Don, I'm just saying hypothetically, one who thinks he's a flat earther but is actually arguing within a false dichotomy. But the false dichotomy itself doesn't actually exist in this regard. There is no false dichotomy because you can't compare and contrast something that doesn't exist with something that has a use. You can't compare something that has no phenomena with something that you can very much show. But it's nice to have it if you're a globehead, because you've got to have something to argue about if you're arguing about gravity. You don't want to just argue about whether or not gravity exists, as we would detail. Much better to argue which one's the effect that causes things to go down. Well, is it electromagnetic forces? Let's have that as your flat Earth claim, and we'll claim ours as gravity, and we'll argue amongst the two about which one's right or wrong, so long as we're all begging the question of which one's going to be making this effect apparent on a sphere, regardless of whether or not one exists and one doesn't. As long as we're arguing with two different factions, with two different beliefs, one about gravity and one about electromagnetism, we've got the nice false dichotomy in place for us flat earthers to waste our time on, rather than just pointing out that, what the hell is gravity? There is no gravity. I'm not going to argue for the defence of electrostatics. Why should I? I'll leave that to the other triggered fundies who've been duped into this false dichotomy that they need to adhere to and argue all day about whether or not electrostatic forces, which are totally irrelevant in this arena, are worth arguing about in a false dichotomy with people who think gravity is real. That's why it's done. Exactly, John.
That's not my claim. My claim is not that electrostatics is the cause, but it is effect on relative density.
Well, that's what they use as gravity, because relative density is described in gravity as buoyancy. So it is a false dichotomy. You just haven't realized it.
Well, I'm willing to learn. Like you guys might have answers that I don't have. But I might have answers that you guys don't have as well.
Okay. Pin your ears back. You fell victim to a false dichotomy, where they have an argument which fails on its arse because they haven't got anything to show in the case of gravity. But rather than arguing with you about the fact they haven't got anything to show with gravity and there's no scientific evidence for it, there isn't even a phenomena, it's much better if they claim there is a phenomena, that's not challenged, and you pit your phenomena, which has no relation or contrast to it, against it. So you argue for electrostatics, they argue for gravity, and then you're in a false dichotomy argument where either one or the other will win in the eyes of the audience. Either gravity's the cause of things going down, they don't. Mass going down?
Yes,
no?
I'm with you. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Gas does not go down, boom, boom.
Right, but then you will launch into your explanation about how electromagnetic forces work for them to argue with you about that, when it's not necessary.
Right, but I'm saying electrostatics is something that flat earthers should get into.
Why? For what reason? I've tried to spend the last half an hour explaining to you that for what reason? To contrast with what? For what purpose? For what benefit? To demonstrate what fact? To make what claim? And the answer to that is there isn't anything to compare and contrast. The only use it has is to stack up against a false dichotomy with gravity. That's its only use.
That's why I hate it.
Oh my goodness.
In the end, if you win that argument, all you've done in the heliocentrist mind is you've replaced gravity with electrostatics being the reason that things fall down and go boom boom.
That's
when
not,
they don't.
No. That's not my claim. No, relative density. You got molecules that are more spread apart versus more nitty tight. That like a block of wood will float because the molecules are more spread apart versus a rock that are more compact. That's why it sinks.
I didn't say
That's
that was
not
what?
I didn't say that was your claim.
Dude,
I
my
didn't
friend.
say that.
So what? That's got nothing to do with the
But electrostatics
my
does
friend,
have an effect.
I know you've had a couple of drinks, but
us.
you're just talking through it. You're making the show unlistenable. When someone's responding to your lengthy diatribe about this stuff we just pulled apart, it doesn't mean that because we're pulling it apart, you need to interject through everybody's sentences. Yeah, just accept that we're going to rip this garbage to nonsense to pieces based on its use in a false dichotomy when stacked up against gravity. You're now detailing how relative density works. Yes, that's fine, other than that's not the subject matter. The subject matter is why do flat earthers feel it's relevant to stack up electromagnetic or electrostatic or electronic or gravitational forces with one another when they're not in any way comparable? Well, the reason is simple. So that it can be argued about with one side having a belief that things go down because of electrostatic forces, while the other side says things go down because of gravity, when in reality, it's a false dichotomy. Matter isn't going down. Gas doesn't go down. That's matter. It expands in all directions. It doesn't have a downward vector. It has all vectors. But that being pointed out isn't as useful to a baller when he can argue all day about whether gravity is favourable for his paradigm versus you claiming electrostatic forces.
Okay, so solids has a different property than gases, correct?
Yes. Fundamentally different state, yes.
So relative density of the solids are more than gases, correct? That's why they go down. I'm not claiming that electrostatics is the cause. I'm saying it has an effect on, matter, if you will.
Pardon me. I don't think you're understanding. It's not your claim that we are attacking. I don't think you're misunderstanding. You're placing your claim. You're placing your claim within a false dichotomy with gravity, and that's the part we're taking issue with. Because even in the mind of your opponent, even if you win, the best you can hope to do is replace gravity with electrostatics.
Yeah, but it's more for the flat Earth, man, because it's being hijacked. Electromagnetism is a paradigm.
Stop. Don't do-si-do us round in circles when we've asked you to give an example of that and you failed. No, it isn't. That's wrong. I don't want to spend another 10 minutes with me asking you what I've already asked you in terms of, well, show me how it's linked. Show me how it's been hijacked. You haven't done that.
So they claim that there's a magnetosphere, an ionosphere that's around the globe, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that can be a circular or like a circumference of light over the Earth, over a flat plane.
Okay. And?
Not a sphere.
Okay. That's fascinating.
It can warp light. Magnetism can affect light.
Okay.
What does light have to do with gravity?
Well, they claim, photon. Okay, I can't do this. I apologize, guys. I really do.
You're right. You might listen back to this and realize that the point that we were making has nothing to do with the point you're trying to make.
Right, we don't disagree with anything you're putting forward in terms of electrostatic forces and their relevance. In general, it's interesting. I agree. But that's not why it's in this arena.
Yeah, I'm just a little cloudy right now. No,
That's fine.
I apologize, guys.
No, stop apologising. Hopefully, as John said, you'll listen back and twig what we're trying to put down. We're not trying to say, you're wrong about electrostatics. But that's why it's in the arena, so the globehead can say, you're wrong about that. If you only understood what gravity is, then you've got a nice false dichotomy set up for them to argue the toss, with their side being gravity and your side being electrostatics. And you're doing it for them. You're telling us, without any justification, how they are linked, how we need to get behind it, and how we need to see it as important as flat earthers. And we go, no. Why? Well, because of this aspect. Well, that's interesting. How does it link to flat earth? It isn't. Well, no, it is. I see it as important. Well, how is it hijacking gravity or the effects they describe in it? It isn't. It doesn't. And so we go on. So the importance of what you feel is relevant is diluted further and further down to the point where you get to, well, why is it in the arena? Why is it that I hear globeheads and flat earthers arguing the toss between electrostatic forces and gravity? Well, because that's useful to the globe side, isn't it? Very useful. Far better than us pointing out that, no, there is no effect. Show me gravity. Oh, you can't? What's this contraption you're saying that's an experiment that isn't? No, it would be useful with wound into that crappy claim that hasn't got an experiment if you were telling them how the variables didn't include electrostatic forces, so you can argue about that and forget about focusing on the fact that they've got a pseudoscience claim in the first place. No phenomena to show. Conjured in the apparatus. Better that you're saying, oh no, the apparatus is fine, the experiment is fine, but did you control for electrostatics?
Right, you're lending them your validity of your argument. You're lending that to them when you argue about whether it's what they claim. You see what I'm saying?
That's begging the question. Like, do you control for electrostatics when you're doing so-called quote unquote, Cavendish and experiment? Do you do that? No, they don't.
It's not.
We got one in a vacuum.
God, it's going right over your head. It's frustrating.
Well, you don't need a controlled variable if you don't have an experiment.
Okay. If I say I'm going to do an experiment, okay, my friend, I'm going to do an experiment on a firework. Yeah?
Okay, go ahead.
Right, so I'm doing an experiment on a firework. And I'm going to decide on the nature of the universe as the outcome of my experiment done on a firework. Would you think it's reasonable to dictate the worldview based on what I call an experiment when I launch a firework? Is that reasonable?
Very reasonable.
No, it's not. An experiment establishes the cause of a natural phenomena, definitely not in the realms of launching off fireworks. That's not an experiment, not the establishment of cause and effect with systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis. It's just me launching a firework, playing with toys. So when they play with toys, Cavendish, it's the equivalent to me launching a firework. And then claiming that it's got some scientific validity, and you coming along and going, have you controlled for electrostatic forces when you launched the firework to claim the nature of the entire world? No, you're kind of missing the point there, because the firework doesn't prove that, so I don't need to concern whether or not I've controlled for electrostatic forces. It just needs pointing out that a firework's not going to demonstrate the nature of reality, in the same way the Cavendish isn't an experiment and won't show you anything to do with the nature of reality. There's no phenomena observed.
You have to launch the firework first to see any manipulation that is going on to question the observation to get a hypothesis.
You don't know what science is. Just stop talking.
Science is a study of the physical reality through an experimentation.
All right, what's the first step? Okay, what's the first step?
The first step is you observe. That is
Wrong.
the first step.
That's incorrect, incomplete, not correct. You don't know what science is.
You observe it. You observe it first. That's the first thing you do.
Don't just repeat it. Stop.
Okay, well,
stop. Doesn't mean carry on chanting that you just observe it. No, you don't. That's wrong.
That's the first step.
Stop.
You asked me what the first step is.
Hello? Do you think I need you to chant at me what science is? You are wrong. You don't know what science is. That's why you have fallen for this false dichotomy.
Oh, man.
What's the first step? You don't know.
And then you find out what the cause is, the independent variable, to the effect.
Oh, the effect. An effect. So observe something isn't an effect.
You observe
then.
first. You observe first.
Observe what?
That's everything.
Hello,
everything is observing.
Hello, Mr. Verbal Diarrhea. Hello, Mr. Verbal Diarrhea.
Then you find,
hello. That means
variable.
Stop talking. I don't want to have to remove you because you're becoming intolerable. No, you said half of it, then you said the other half later. You haven't linked the two together. Step one hasn't been detailed by you as a complete statement yet. Therefore, ergo, you don't know what science is. You've got a vague understanding of it.
Oh, my gosh.
Step one is not observe something.
It's the study of the natural world through hypothesis, through experimentation.
What's step one?
It's that simple.
Yeah, I know that. What's step one? My friend.
Step one is a hypothesis.
No, that's incorrect. So, as I say, you with your misapprehensions about how important it is to establish whether or not a control variable is in the form of electrostatics, you don't know what an experiment is.
Yeah, you control. Yes, a control variable. If we want to be more into like semantics, more in like straight detail, yes, you do have a control variable. That's why where can you control electrostatics when you're doing quote unquote not the Cavendish experiment? That I like to know. Where are these globers? How are they controlling that?
My friend, you don't need to because it's not an experiment. It's pseudoscience.
But
you're not picking up.
I'm with you.
You're just talking through me because you're triggered when I point out that
you're talking through me. I'm not triggered.
Stop. Right, you don't understand what science is. You've got a vague idea, but you haven't got...
Oh, my God.
You don't have to blaspheme through me. My friend, one more time, I'm just going to kick you out. It's getting frustrating. I'm trying to lay down to you. Now I am bloody pan. Every time they get to the point where they're pissing me off so much interrupting me, Neil does it as well. Every single time. You don't know what science is. Otherwise, you'd have told me what step one was, not babbled on about control variables, because you've got one that you think needs applying to a non-experiment, and therefore it's very important. It isn't. What's important is establishment of cause and effect based on the observation of a natural phenomena. An effect that you see in nature. Now, Cavendish doesn't have that effect observed in nature as step one to go forth to perform any tests. It doesn't have that. Likewise, a firework isn't a naturally occurring phenomena to need to concern ourselves with what's being controlled as control variables. So if there's no step one, observe natural phenomena, then we definitely don't need to concern ourselves with whether or not they've controlled electromagnetic forces, do we? Because they haven't even performed step one. But you don't know that. So you feel it's important to stress to me, who does, the importance of the control variable in a pseudoscience test that has no relevance on electrostatic forces being a control when they're not doing any sort of actual science. Because they don't have a phenomena. So you're saying let's control for something we actually see occurring in nature? To what? Vary and manipulate something we don't? But you don't understand that. But you're lecturing us about the importance of this bloody electromagnetic forces. Yeah, I've been there, done that, bought the T-shirt, tried to lecture the people who poison this community with this garbage. And I was turned into an outcast for it. And here I am, 4 years later, with you telling me how important it is. For trying to educate others on the significance of this very subject, Cavendish non-experiment and an understanding of the scientific method, I was cast out of this community. And it was made overtly clear by people who are supposed to be on my side that people shouldn't be subscribing to me, that they should leave my company.
No, you are a viable resource.
I don't need you rattling through me as I tell people about my history in understanding science and how it debunks nonsense Cavendish and the association with electrostatic forces. You don't understand that. I don't need you to kiss my ass about how relevant I am when I'm bitching and moaning about idiots in this community who don't understand science and go around telling people electrostatics is important. Now, you're still chorting through me, aren't you, Don? So you can be removed,
but why
you dick.
Are you so mad?
Shut up! Drunk wanker who thinks electrostatic forces are relevant in this community. No, they are not. There's no relevance to it. It's a false dichotomy you will fall victim to. Why? Because you don't understand what science is. Now, trying to explain that to my fellow flat earthers hurt me severely. Now, on my own damn show, I won't have you, a waffling wanker who's drunk, tell me about the importance of electrostatics. They're not. They're being used against us. Make no mistake. I understand it because I understand what science is. You do not. Like the people who told it you, and told you how important it is, and told you to consider it as important. We all know who they are.
Well done, Nathan.
What's the point of muting? I mean, I had to agree with the Glovers, dude. You do mute easily.
I muted you because you wouldn't shut up.
You don't shut up.
You stupid bastard. Get the fuck off my show, you stupid, arrogant prick. I run this show. I talk a lot. Yeah, no shit. I'm the host. You stupid dick. Go away and tell others how important electrostatics are. Because, oh no, the quasi-experiment doesn't hold them constant. My God, you sound like a complete idiot. The arrogance of telling me I talk a lot on my own show. Oh, my God.
I'd like to remind the guy that he already admitted he had a drink. Maybe you should take that into account as he's going forward on the show.
I'm grateful to him, Arwin. Like with the other ballers the other day, I said after the fact, if it's not for people like him, I wouldn't get to disseminate John's assessment so clearly. At one stage, there's a back and forth. John's explaining, oh no, there's a false dichotomy in play. Suddenly the penny drops. That can be disseminated to an audience thanks to my fantastic panel. However, if that's constantly waffled through by Don, then it's just inaudible. No, I muted him and he moans. Oh yeah, I see all the ballers have got something to complain about. When I'm triggered because I'm being told I don't understand science, I want to talk through every damn word of that. How dare you mute me? That's what he's basically saying. Now, I am, without question, going to speak for the audience when I say they would prefer to actually hear what's being said, as opposed to hear me saying, this is a false dichotomy stacked up against gravity, when we can just point out there is no phenomena. There's no need to have a claim in place that seems to have significant importance to the majority of the flat earth community, because there's dicks out there telling them so. Yeah, exercise some self-interest, maybe some discernment. Rather than just being told how important electrostatics are, go and find out what the hell they are, rather than coming here and babbling about how important they are when you don't really understand them yourself. Certainly don't understand how they're scientifically valid, or how you can apply them to a non-science experiment in the form of Cavendish. Just we're dealing with complete dicks. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. And what you are being given by others in this flat earth community is exactly that. A little knowledge that doesn't bear relevance to the subject matter. Who cares if electrostatic forces have some significance on life in general? It bears no significance to the flat plane we live on. At all. Oh, unless you stack it up in false dichotomy against gravity, which has no phenomena.
Nathan, you did well, because you have to have the mute button because you're the filter for the show, and it's your show. This person already said he needed to leave 3 times before but never left, and whatever happened after he didn't leave is on him, and I want to applaud you for the way you handled it.
Well, I'm still the same attitude, 10th. I'm a grateful man. He has come and let us disseminate this to an audience. So thank you very much, Don. It's just better if when you get triggered because you've said something incorrect, you just have a bit of humility and just listen to the explanation for why and how you're wrong when you say you just observe something as the first step of the scientific method. Incorrect. But it'd be nice if you, for one, actually listened to how and why you were correct so you're better educated after the fact, rather than just talking through every single word of it because it's embarrassing to be wrong. Yeah, zero humility. That's the problem we deal with ballers. And that's why he can relate when his humility level sinks to baller level, because he's wrong about something. No, we all get something wrong at some point. Yeah, it's embarrassing. But how you deal with it is a demonstration to the audience of how high your humility level is. In this case, ever-decreasing humility as something gets more embarrassing for the individual who said something wrong. And they're like, no, I do know science. I vaguely listened to at least 10 shows when you talked about it. There's something about independent and control variables, blah, 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 blah. I do know. At that point, that's not helping anybody.
I would like to speak in his defense because I think he was tipsy, but, still you got to take credit for your, your actions. So, he was a bit tipsy when he was talking.
Fiber8 says with the super chat, thank you very much first and foremost. Note to self, drinking bad. Okay. Thank you very much, Fiber8.
Well, he got caught up. It does happen when you have something to drink and it makes you fuzzy. Well, if you then don't let go, then you forget about it, right? So he just kind of forgotten that he had a drink and got caught up.
I'm glad he's had a drink so he can lower his inhibitions and stress what he's really thinking. I think electromagnetic forces in the flat earth community is something that must be given higher significance. And he said that in a reasonably concise way for a good 20 or 30 minutes until he's, got annoyed that we've pointed out he's wrong in some respect. No hard feelings, the same as everybody else who comes here. Brilliant, in fact. Wonderful. Because that is a poison in our community as far as I'm concerned because of the reasons John gave.
It does
I'd
help.
just like to,
if you're...
Sorry, guys. Just saying that I think you broke that down wonderfully, Nathan and John, and I'd like to thank you because, not that I'm into electrostasity, but the way you've explained that, I wasn't aware of that false dichotomy, and now I am, and it's amazing how you've explained it, and now it's opened my eyes to that, so thank you.
That's John more than me. I take the great information from my panel and just make it longer. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Yeah, but you pick it up right away, Nathan. That's the thing. You pick it up right away and add to it. That's what he's saying.
No need to blow smoke at my ass. Look, the point is, it's going to be disseminated through the audience. We haven't paid any interest in electrostatic forces to see how it gets argued, the toss about. While I might give examples of people arguing it in the flat earth community in that false dichotomy, I've never actually witnessed that recently because I don't watch anything in that regard. But I can immediately picture it. I know that's why it's done. I know why it's so ingrained at the feast of nonsense when you get here that when you go out into the field of flat earth, you'll be telling your own compadres how important it is to make sure you've got your ideas of electrostatics in place for when you get into an argument about gravity. You're like, bloody hell, whoever's put this into our community's done a really good job.
Nathan, I'm laughing so hard because especially on this conversation, you didn't have to say blow smoke up your...
The smoke's not a gas.
I think the big thing to take away from it is if you're arguing with somebody about the nature of reality and whether Earth's a sphere, right? And you put gravity as a viable contender for electrostatics, right? And you compare the two, you automatically give validity to gravity's existence. And the best you can hope for at that point is to prove to them that electrostatics are the reason we're stuck to a ball.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
lucky day.